Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 46 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. Today we're going to be talking about everything related to hope, why wishing for a better future will actually help you create one and not the other way around. So one thing that we will say is apologies because this episode is going to be a bit late coming out. So we do apologize for that.
Well, more so that we just missed an episode. Also, it's great to be back. Honestly,
Oh, yeah.
like for example, having a guest episode and then not recording an episode and then coming back, it feels so long. But it's interesting because way back, I'm saying way back as if we've been uploading 2 videos a week for a long time. But like when we were uploading one video a week, that's how long it was, right? Until our next recording.
Yeah,
it's
I guess that's true.
It's 1 week.
But yeah,
Now
it's been a while since you've been on here. And shout out to Eric. If you haven't checked out the guest episode, we cooked up. So definitely go check that out.
Mm-hmm.
But now that he's back, let's have opening the comments from Mr. Co-host himself.
Well, honestly, it's good to be back. I love being here. I love doing this. It's absolutely amazing. And I actually chose the topic for today. So, I mean, you guys don't know much about what goes on behind the scenes here.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, he's the one coming up with the topics. I'm more of just your speaker guy. But I came up with this topic because a bit of an incident happened earlier this week. And it made me very fearful. And the incident was I lost my wallet. And wow, crazy, because going back in time, this guy had lost his wallet not too long ago. Now, this was my really nice Burberry wallet that I bought in Japan. So it was on 2 fronts. It meant one thing is obviously monetary value. It's an expensive wallet. And then also it has all my, my debit cards, my student ID. Student ID was the big one because I had a midterm the next day that I needed my student ID for because they scan your student IDs. So I needed my student ID. And I even emailed my teaching assistant. I was like, hey, I lost my wallet, so I don't have my student ID. What should I do? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. Bring some form of valid identification and we'll figure it out. But when I went to the midterm, all they did was they took your student ID, they put it through a scanner, and that was it. So, I don't know how we would have figured that out.
That's kind of
anyway.
crazy because I've been taking exams for 4 years and they've never used an ID scanner
Oh, yeah,
ever.
but they had a scanner. They walked around and then you pass them your ID. They scan it 2 times and then your face pops up on it and everything.
What the hell?
With,
That's
a check mark.
crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that serious. But anyway, I was very fearful because I lost that. And, so on the one front was monetary value and everything that's physically in it. And then again, obviously I have some emotional investment. I bought it in Japan. It has, I left a 1,000 yen bill in the top of it because I bought it in Japan and the idea of lucky money. So I was I keep that in there and I'm going to keep that in there forever. So I start losing my mind looking around. Not losing my mind as much as him. I just want to put that out there. I was just slightly stressed just looking around for it. And I had my driver's test coming up. So I was okay, I'll have to do this after. But I'm in the car with my dad driving over there. And then, I'm in a bad mood. And he can clearly tell. And he was just there's no point in really worrying about this at all. If you really think about it, we can buy another wallet. It's not a big deal. And I was yeah, but I bought it in Japan and all that. And he's yeah, well, there's nothing you can do about it right now. Right now, it's not really up to you. And there's nothing you can do in the scenario. So why not just move on? And I had lost all hope at that point. But then I called the arcade that I went to a few days prior. And they had my wallet. So I dropped my wallet in the arcade a while back. So I called them and I was hey, do you have this wallet? And they asked for my ID, what's my name and everything. I told them my name. And then they're yeah, we have it. You can come and pick it up. And I was okay. And then I drove over there and I picked it up. But the moral of the story was that my life was so much worse before I just gave myself the chance of believing. Before I treated it as if all hope was lost, it's over, it's done, I'm not going to find my wallet. And I was pretty miserable. That car ride over there to my driving test, I felt garbage because I was just oh God, I'm going to lose my wallet. But then when we were sitting in the waiting area, me and my dad just talked about it and then just boom. After he's you know what, it'll probably turn up. And if not, it's okay, we'll get another one. That hope that one, it might turn up, but more importantly, it's going to be okay was what just, I basically almost forgot about it. Not so much that I don't care, but I don't feel bad about it anymore because I look into the future and I'm hey man, there is nothing to be afraid of, right? In the end, this event isn't going to make my life that much worse, right? It only makes my life worse if I let it make my life worse. If I do everything I possibly can about the scenario and it didn't go my way, what do I have to worry about? What do I have to feel bad about, right? It's done. It's over. There's no point in me losing hope that the future of my life is going to be bad, right? If I instead believe that, hey, the best thing can happen, I, rid myself of these negative emotions.
Yeah, 100%. I think that it's interesting because hope is just one of those concepts that a lot of people don't like to believe in. A lot of people say that hope or naive optimism makes you susceptible to danger. And that's why I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily like believing in hope. But that concept of believing that tomorrow will be good is what makes tomorrow better. It's like what you focus on is what happens. We talk about this all the time. Every self-improvement podcast out there talks about what you focus on is what happens. So the definition of hope, according to Merriam-Webster, is a feeling of expectation and desire for certain things to happen. Okay? So if you take that definition and apply it in how you live every single day, you can come up with a pretty great life if you just look forward to each day. It's funny because I was sitting there on one of my down days, one of the days where like not everything was going that well for me. I'm having an off day, a bit lazy, a bit unproductive. I just feel lethargic, tired, didn't sleep well. And I'm sitting in the kitchen and I go on TikTok to post today's video. And after posting a video, I'll typically scroll for a few TikToks or so on the Brighter Horizons account to comment on some things. Because first of all, there's a lot of great self-improvement content out there. And sometimes just being able to consume something like that on my own time, rather than spending all of it creating it, it's nice. It's nice to actually be a consumer instead of constantly making. Like, it is really fun to make stuff, right? Especially making videos. Like, there's nothing like it. I get to sit here, talk with my best friend, upload it on YouTube, and people watch it. That's pretty dope to me. But sitting back and getting to look at other people's perspectives and just be happy, that's a different feeling. So I sat there in the kitchen and I'm going through it, and I get to this one TikTok where it's like the pictures where you slide. And the first picture is, I woke up today saying that it was going to be a good day. It wasn't. But tomorrow, I'm going to wake up and do the same thing, hoping that it will be. So the lesson that I drew from that was, it doesn't really matter how today goes or tomorrow goes for that matter. It just matters what you think. As you sit here, you can either consistently be negative and, think that tomorrow's going to suck, the day after is going to suck. Or you can just hold out hope that things will turn out good eventually. I have like so many friends that are extremely, extremely negative for no reason. And I get it that, if you compare my life to theirs, which they definitely do because obviously we're closer friends, but if they compare their lives to mine, obviously they see a lot of things that I have and they're upset that they don't have them. But they also don't see all the things that I lack or the things that I struggle with or the amount of effort I put in to have the things that I do. They don't see that work behind it. And that's like the truth for all of you guys too. When you look at us or if you look at any celebrity online, you don't see what went into creating that, opportunity or whatever they're succeeding in. So as you sit there and consistently, be jealous about what somebody else has, you're not really making any difference in your own thing. Mm-hmm. And I talked to someone a few days ago and it was their birthday. Okay. And their first response to me when I said happy birthday was, thanks, I hate my birthday. And I sat there wondering to myself, how insanely broken does your experience with your life have to be to say that you hate the day that you were born? And the thing is, that's not even me extrapolating their, sentence. That's exactly what they said word for word. Oh, wow. So it is, and obviously, I tried to lay the Brighter Horizons wisdom on them as I always do. I tried to be nice and, listen and be a good friend. But I just think that it's crazy that there's a lot of people out there who take what they have for granted and just take every opportunity to be negative.
You want to know, there's a quote that I heard, and it's that comparison is the thief of joy. You've heard that quote, right?
The funny thing is I actually said that on last week's episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I want to say that I don't believe that quote.
Huh, interesting.
But I do. And I think the quote should be altered. What I think the quote should be is that comparison is the thief of emotion. Because where you compare yourself is what leads to the emotion that you feel. Because think about it, we talk about comparison. We've talked about comparison as a way to be happy. By looking at somebody in a worse scenario than your own, you can feel grateful for what you have, right? So in that way, isn't comparison thieving or stealing your sadness? Comparison doesn't only take happy emotions; they can take the sad ones, right? So it's interesting though because it depends on how you look at it. Because to take away joy is to create sadness, and to take away sadness is to create joy, right? So when people say that it's like, what's it called? I just accidentally deleted all of my notes. I'm going to get them back in a moment.
I don't think so. I think if you just press the done button, it might
have just lost all my notes, but that's fine. Don't worry about that.
You know what that reminds me of? That clip of Terry where he's like, don't worry, you can have my keyboard. Terry knows his mouse shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. And then he's like, oh, just deleted everything.
Yeah.
Freaking funny guy.
Never mind. Okay, I found it. But
See,
anyway,
told you.
My idea was that we always think about people don't view things in the two ways that they can be viewed. And the reason that I brought this up, or the reason that I even thought about that quote, was because of a video I saw of John Cena. I think he was on, I want to say Jimmy Kimmel's show or Jimmy Fallon. Like, they didn't have Jimmy Kimmel or Fallon in the actual clip, so I'm not sure. It was just him talking. But what he said was that he has 2 watches, okay? One to tell time and one to tell perspective, right? So the one to tell perspective has 2 engravings on either side. So on one side, it says, thief is the comparison of joy. So it tells him that, whenever he's feeling down, comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah. Okay, sorry, my bad. So whenever he's feeling down, he can tell himself that, hey, I'm enough, right? I'm good enough. I'm doing well, and I should be happy with myself. And the other side says memento mori. Do you know what that means?
I do. I just don't remember exactly what it is. Dude, I've heard this before. What is it? Okay, what do you mean?
It means remember you must die. So at the end, he says that, he needs to remind himself that he is human and he is above no one. And he needs to remember where he came from and remember all who supported him. So he said that one side is for when his ego's too big and one side for when he feels like he's not enough. And I thought that was a really cool story about John Cena. But my issue was with the quote of thief is the comparison is the thief of joy. God, I don't know why I keep messing up.
Freaking day now, bro.
Right? It's interesting because I think that you can create happiness from sadness, right? I think that it's very doable. Mm-hmm. It's just a question of perspective, right? Whichever way you want to look at it. If you want to use comparison as a tool to break yourself down, then that's where you're going to end up, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what I'd be saying, man. And the thing is, everyone is hopeful about certain things. Everyone hopes for certain outcomes, whether it's getting that dream job, getting the promotion, getting that girl to go out with you. Maybe it's hoping that your parlays hit. Whatever you're hoping for, everyone wakes up with something in mind that they want out of the day. Mm-hmm. So to sit here and say that you can't apply that same hope to an overarching goal in your life, like I want to be successful, I want to be happy, I want this, I want that. And to shy away from those goals because other people say it's not possible is crazy to me, because you have no problem believing in a lot of these smaller goals. If you do, that's an even bigger concern that I don't really know what to say about that. You should be consistently looking for hope in your life, consistently looking for the light. What is the point in dwelling in this darkness when you have all these opportunities in front of you? Like, realistically speaking, the world is so big. Like, we talk about this all the time, that you are so insignificant. And that I mean that in a good way, not in the way that your life doesn't matter. But I mean it in the way that whatever you go out there and do, nobody else is going to judge you for it. Nobody else is going to hold you back for it. So whatever you hope to accomplish in life, it's within your reach. You just have to reach out and grab it. That's all of life. That's all it's about.
Yeah.
No matter what. And I'll give you an example today. I had completely given up hope on this week's fantasy matchup. Okay? I'm sitting there watching the football game this morning, and my GOAT, Jordan Love, gets injured in the second quarter. So he's out, and he only has 6 points. And I'm versing a guy who picked the Broncos quarterback, and they play the Panthers today. So they're about to completely blow the Panthers out of the water and score a bunch of points. So I'm sitting here with my quarterback with 6 points, and I'm depressed. I'm like, man, I'm going to lose. It's Jover. And then what happens? My running backs both pop off and score 2 touchdowns each. And I have a fantastic rest of the week, and we win. Never give up, because you never really know what's going to happen. Even at the last minute, the odds were flipping back and forth. An hour before the matchup was done, the odds were 92% to 8 in his favor.
Oh, damn.
And then it flipped to 91% to 9 for me, flipped back to 63% for him, and then 100% for me.
That is kind of crazy.
You never know what's going to happen, man. You just got to be hopeful and consistently working to get
Again,
better.
and especially about the things that you can't control. Why not believe the best in what you cannot affect?
Yeah.
Right? Especially when it comes to other people. I preach this because I find it to be my best way of living life. Is to hope that other people have their best intentions at heart.
Yeah.
Right? Or that other people are good people. And I actually wanted to read a little excerpt from the Bible, okay? From Luke chapter 6, verse 32 to 36. So it reads, "If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, to receive as much again. But love your enemies, do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful." The reason I bring it to mind is because I don't think that you should go out there in the world to do good on the basis that everybody else has to do good for you. Instead, hope that your good will inspire other people to be better, right? I don't want to do this podcast on the hope that I'll get famous or that a million people out there are going to tell me, "Hey man, you're the best podcaster ever. Your videos are amazing." That's not what I want. I don't care if I get no recognition for this. All I really want is for the people behind the screen to live a better life or to be inspired to help more people, right? Your goal should never be to get something back from it, especially when it comes to other people. Stop trying to use other people for leverage, right? And don't always expect people, or don't always do what people expect you to do. Now, I'm going to tell another story. And I'm surprised that we haven't talked about this story before because I think that we both know the story very well. But anyway, the story is about a young kid who got into a gang. Now, I don't know if this is actually a true story. I'm just going to put that out there. But the story is about a kid who gets into a gang. And to be fully part of the gang, he had to kill another kid. So, he does the thing and he shoots this kid, okay? The kid dies. But this kid who tried to join the gang got arrested. And at his trial, everything happens. People, the prosecution goes after him and he's going to be put away. But the mother of the boy who was murdered said only one thing to the boy at the trial. She sat completely silent the whole time. But in the final remarks, as he was being taken away, she said, "I'm going to kill you." To the kid. That's all she said. Now he gets taken away. And as time passes, nobody comes to visit the kid in prison. Not even the people in the gang who told him to do this. None of his family. Nobody really came to visit him. But finally, after a really long time, he got a visitor. And that visitor was the kid who got murdered's mom. The woman who said she was going to kill him. She came and finally visited him. After all that time, she was the only person that came to visit him. And, he picked up the phone and she asked him, is there anything that you need in here? And, all these things. And as time went on, she would buy him, these visits became more frequent. And she would buy him maybe cigarettes, water, maybe a snack or something, whatever the prison allowed her to bring in. She would do that. And then eventually, they became pretty good friends almost. And the mother never treated the boy like he was a murderer. Instead, she treated him like a son. And eventually, the kid finally got out of prison. And when he got out of prison, the woman said, "You can come and live with me." Because he had nowhere to go. The gang wasn't going to take him back. He didn't have any family to live with. So he lived with that woman. And for years, he lived with her and went to school and did all these things. And then eventually, she asked him the question, "Can I adopt you as my own son?" And he said, "Absolutely." So after all this time, he then asked her, "What about what you said at the trial? You said you were going to kill me." And she said, "I did. Because that boy who murdered my son no longer exists. That boy is gone." And there's a quote. The quote is simply, "Have I not destroyed my enemy once I have made him into my friend?" And this was a story I first heard from Prince EA.
You know who said that quote?
No.
Abraham Lincoln.
Really?
Swear to God. You
Oh.
want to know the craziest part about that?
Why?
Guess what book I read it in?
How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Yep.
Wow, that is
Not,
crazy.
that is a crazy
That
full
is a
circle moment.
crazy
I'm
full
not even
circle
joking.
moment.
I've been meaning to use that quote for a long time. I'm pretty sure I said it on one of the episodes. But actually, no, you would definitely remember that.
I
if
would
said
remember that because
Yeah.
I saw that quote and I was like, damn, that's a whole part of the I have no enemies kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the idea that I love that story so much because again, you have no enemies, right? And you don't need to treat people based on their past actions, but instead hope to inspire others, right? Believe in the good in people. I'm telling you that when you believe in the good of the external of life, your life will improve exponentially. Like for me, especially when I started believing that people aren't out there to get me, I think you can see things in a much clearer lens. Because when you're tainted with the idea that everybody is trying to get me, somebody's trying to wait for me to slip up, you become completely paranoid. And what you subconsciously do is you believe the worst in everybody. You become what? You become a cynic. We talked about it on a previous episode. And that way of life just isn't suitable. It's not worth it to live your life worrying about what might go wrong.
Yeah.
Because there's another quote, and it is, it doesn't matter how open, peaceful, and loving you try to be, people can only meet you as deep as they've met themselves. This is the heart of clarity. So when you do something and you do good, but somebody might not do good back, it's not a reflection on you, right? Instead, you should be hopeful about the fact that if I do enough good, then I might inspire somebody else to do better, right? If I can keep doing good, then maybe the people who are affected by my actions will be inspired to do the same.
Yeah.
And it's just this domino effect. So be hopeful, especially in other people, right? That you can affect their lives. But don't be afraid that they're going to hurt you just because you open yourself up to that.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of a story that I saw on Instagram, I believe. I saw a video of this guy, and I think he's recording a video of him and his friend walking down Santa Monica Pier. And as they stroll across this beautiful beach, and the sun is shining, everything's great, it's a beautiful day. As they're recording, a homeless man runs up behind them and starts screaming at them like, I'm gonna kill you, I hate you guys, stop recording here. And he just starts saying all these vulgar things to them. And the guy turns around and he looks at this homeless man and he walks up to him and says, hi, I'm Alex or whatever his name is. What's your name? And he sticks out his hand to shake it. The homeless guy looks at him dazed and confused, like, what is wrong with this guy? I just said all these mean things to him. And he turned around and tries to shake my hand. And the guy eventually says his name, and the homeless man has a conversation with him. And they sit there and they talk, and the guy is a Christian, okay? And I'm just going to name him Alex for the sake of the, analogy. So Alex looks at this homeless man and says, I bet that a lot of people have treated you wrong in the past, and I'm really sorry that things have been that way. I bet that it hasn't really been easy. And then he said, I just want you to know, man, I care about you. You matter, and I love you, bro. When was the last time someone said that to you? And the homeless man was just in shambles, like in tears. He was so sad. And that moment, I was just blown away. And I sat there and I watched him walk up to him, give him a hug, and say, can I give you a prayer, bro? And then they sat there and they said a prayer together. Now, obviously, I'm not a Christian or anything, but you don't have to be religious to see the beauty in some of these moments, right? To go out there and just spread a positive message and to help somebody in need, that's something any of us can do. A lot of us have the power to help others and inspire others, but we don't. So whenever you do have the chance to do that, do it. If you can provide some of that hope in somebody else's life, you don't know how far it could go. There's a lot of homeless people out there who one small change could completely turn their fortune, right? And that's why whenever I see someone out there struggling, I try my best to help them, whether it's, with a couple words of encouragement when I give them, some spare change or whatnot. Whatever I can do, I go out there and do it. You never really know how far those actions will go.
Absolutely.
And also you going out there and doing that can inspire other people to do the same. Think about it. That video of Alex talking to that homeless man completely shattered my perspective on a lot of people nowadays, because sitting there and watch this guy approach such a hostile stranger and treat it with such love and compassion, that was insane to me. And when I see people like that in real life as well, I'm also sitting here thinking those people are heroes. Biggest example is that guy who sits there, whether it's rain, shine, snow, right at the school across the street from our house. And he stands there and acts as a crossing guard, as a volunteer. Even though he's super old, he sits there and helps all these kids cross the street every single day with a smile on his face, waves to every single car, no matter how gloomy the weather is, no matter how early he has to get up. He's always out there with a smile. And every day when I drive past that guy, I think to myself, it's going to be a good day. He's such a beacon of hope. I've never met this guy. I don't know his name. I don't know anything about him. And yet, as I drive past him, I feel nothing but hope. So think about how you could impact other people if you go out there and do something nice.
And this takes me back to actually one video of Cliff. And actually, I found out that his last name is pronounced like Connectly, I believe.
That is wild.
Which is absolutely wild. And I'm pretty sure, which is kind of crazy. But it's a clip of him at a university where he's talking to a bunch of students. And he says to the students, the students say to him, they're like, do you have racist friends? And he's like, absolutely. I have racist friends. I have sexist friends. I have homophobic friends. And now they're all losing their minds. All the students are like, yo, what's wrong with this guy? This guy's gone crazy. He's lost his mind. He's basically openly admitting to, condoning all these activities. But then what does he say after? He says, and what do you think I say to them? I tell them, turn to Christ. You can make your life better. Now, this is not me preaching about God or religion or anything. But he does say one thing that really stuck with me. And he said, Jesus never treated anybody that way. Right? Jesus is supposed to be, in the Christian belief, a basically perfect being, right? This image of God. He did no wrong. He's like the perfect model example to follow. And he never treated anybody that way. No matter what wrong people did, he never treated them back with that wrong. So I wondered to myself, how many people nowadays would ever live their lives like that, right? In our society, how many people are willing to treat people the same? They're not. Nobody is. Like, genuinely, none of us can do that. We may try, but the idea is that nobody really is bad. If you have looked at the world and you see the people that we consider bad, and you look at what they went through, man, I'm willing to bet you almost everything that I've got that a lot of people in those scenarios would have done the same, right? We see stories about how tragic backstories have led to heroes being formed, but there are more villains than there are heroes formed by tragic backstories, I think, at least. From, if you want to go to the fictional realm, think about how for each superhero, there's 10 supervillains, right? Why is that? It's because they had it hard, right? It's very difficult to find the light when you're plunged into that kind of a tragedy. So when you look around at people and you see, maybe your life might be great. You might be, if you're watching this video, your life is probably pretty good, right? So to think that you can sit there and observe other people and be like, oh, this person's bad for this person's bad for that. I don't like this person. I don't want to associate myself with this person. You never really gave that person a chance, did you? Right? You didn't have enough hope to believe that maybe they have a better life there, right? Everybody has a chance to get better. Their number one example, Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. We've talked about this a billion times, and I'll talk about it 1,000,000,001 times if I have to, because that story is a perfect embodiment that people are just objects of their environment until they know that they are, right? You are a subject of your environment until you realize that you are. Once you realize that you are, you break free from that curse, right? Once you realize that I actually have power over my life, that's when your life changes. That's why I fear a lot about today's society, is that we try to take power away from the individual, because a lot of, nowadays people are saying, with the no free will argument, right? You don't have free will. You're just a subject of your external factors, and you can't control your emotions. You can't do this. But if you really think about it, a lot of the things in your life are up to you. But it only becomes up to you once you realize that it is. But especially when it comes to your judgment of other people, be hopeful. Because I think that you have more to gain from believing in the best in other people than anybody else. Because I think in my life, whenever I go up and I meet a new person and I smile about it and I'm hopeful that they're going to be a good person, I found myself in a better scenario, especially when it comes to university, because I've made a lot of friends in university so far, which I'm more than happy about. I'm not a big friend maker. If you know me, you've probably known me from a really long time back. Most of my close friends, I can't tell you how I met them because I don't know. I don't remember how I met them. It's like they randomly spawned into my life like that. But that's like how my friendships mostly are. So going into university and, everybody's like, oh, make new friends and stuff like that. I wasn't big on it. But I realized that by being hopeful that people could be good friends, I made a bunch of friends that way, right? Certain people in my classes who, if I was my old way of thinking, I never would have had conversations with them. I never would have held conversations with them. I never would have tried to be friends with them. But instead, by opening myself up to the possibility that there is good in every single soul, it allows me to be able to be like, hey, man, you might not be on the same path as me. You may not live your life the way that I live my life, but that doesn't mean that we can't be friends. And that doesn't mean that I can't show you the way that I go, right? It's not about pulling everybody onto your path. It's not about you being egotistical saying, hey, I'm better than you, follow my way. No, it's about being able to show people another way, right? Another way of life. Like, for example, what the Buddha did. With his whole life story, his idea was that I've lived through the extreme. I've lived through extreme good and extreme bad. There's a middle ground here for all of you. There's a beautiful path that you can follow that'll lead to eternal happiness, right? He decided, but he never said, if you don't follow me, you're going to be punished. He never said that. What he said is that if you follow me, I can show you to a better life, right? This is the life that you could live, but not the life that you have to live. So when you're providing advice for other people or you're trying to be a beacon of hope for other people, don't expect everybody to follow because they won't, right? People only change when they want to change. So if they don't want to change, they won't. Instead, just be a beacon, right? Something that constantly shines. Kind of like in Minecraft, Beacons don't really turn off. If you turn on a beacon, it just stays lit up, right? Regardless of whether people are going to the beacon or not, whether people have advancements from the beacon, it stays on. So keep your beacon of hope on. Never let it stray because you can pull so many people to you and with you as you go through your life.
Yeah, and having that outlook on life is good. The positive and hopeful outlook. Because I see a lot of people who take certain negative experiences and they project that onto the rest of their life. They project that as part of their identity. They say, absolutely. I am depressed. I am anxious. Those are the feelings most associated with people who project that sort of negative emotion onto their identity. So the second that you say that's a part of you, it becomes much more difficult to cut out. If you say, I feel depressed, okay, you've put a little bit of distance between it as you're saying, I'm feeling it. I'm experiencing it. I am not one with it. That's a critical point to know. So my question to you is, right, you and me both know that no good comes from projecting negativity onto the rest of your life. It's always better to project a positive outlook, to consistently be happy. But as you know, everyone goes through periods of hopelessness, periods of negativity. So my question to you is, have you ever felt or gone through a period of time where you had no hope in life, where everything kind of sucked and you were down in the dumps for a while?
I will go back to my craziest analogy ever, which was my careers class. When I didn't finish that in grade 12 and I had the risk of not graduating for, I'd say, about a day, which isn't a long time. Right? For about a day, I felt extremely hopeless. Mm-hmm. I was terrified. Like, imagine that you, a kid who was doing, great, had all of this stuff lined up, can't go to university because of one mistake that you made. Yeah. A stupid mistake and a big one, but one thing. And then constantly being told that there's nothing I could do about it, that was scary for me, right? And that's why I urge you, especially if you're like a parent or a teacher or somebody who is guiding others, never say never, right? Never pull people down like that because it is scary. Mm-hmm. Hearing there's no chance, there's nothing you can do is one of the scariest things. Like for me, when I faced that, when they told me that for the first time, they sat me down, they said, and I was pleading with them. I was like, is there anything I can do? Like, I can, I'll do the whole course in a couple of days. I will do whatever it takes. There's anything. They said, no, it's not possible. It's not, in the end, it was possible. I proved them wrong. I'm the GOAT. But
get wrecked.
Yeah, I'm just better. For those, if you ever watch this, just know that. But anyway, the point being that they gave me the whole, in my 20 years of teaching, nobody's ever done it. So I just want to say I broke that, so I'm actually pretty happy about that. That's pretty cool. I broke the 20 years.
Mr. Phenom over
here. Yeah, but either way, that hopelessness is terrifying. Like, I remember because I got called out of class, and they took me down to the office, and they're like, there's nothing you can do. I went back, sat down. My friend was like, yo, what was that for? And I'm like, I'm not going to graduate. And then he just started freaking out. I started freaking out. And we were like, I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And he's like, all right, just, work on your assignments for now. There's nothing you can really do about it. Actually, you know what? Shout out for that advice. I never really talk about that. I don't think he's going to listen. Point. I never brought up that part of the story. But he was like, yeah, just work on your assignments. Like, don't worry about our classwork right now. Just do that. And I was like, damn, I didn't even think about that until just now. But that period of hopelessness.
Yeah. You said it right.
Yeah.
What are you
I don't know. About? I don't know. It sounded wrong in my head, but that was terrifying. Like when I was so petrified by that idea of not graduating. Like I couldn't handle it. I could not handle it. I was so terrified. But the only way that I really got through it, well, there's two ways. One was accepting reality, right? Being like, hey man, you didn't get the course done. Because first step that I was in is, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I'm such an idiot. Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? If I could go back in time, I would have done this. If I could just rewind time, God, give me the chance to rewind time. Let me make things right. That's where I failed first, was in wishing for something that wasn't, right? Wishful thinking in that sense. Wishing about the past is a waste of time, right? There's nothing you can do about it.
Well, in that sense, it's not wishing, it's regret.
Exactly, precisely, right? Regret. That idea that I wish I could change these things. I regret what I did in the past. Why? Now, obviously, it's good to have outlook, but you're in a bad point right now. If you continue to look at the past, you're going to follow the same trend, right? Think about, driving on the highway. You miss an exit, and you spend your whole time looking back at that exit sign. Guess what, man? You're going to miss the next one, too. So you can't focus on those things because you're going to miss the next opportunity that's given, right? I don't want to say God, but life is throwing opportunities down at you. And if you're too busy, afraid of what you lost, you're never going to get the chance to catch another one again. So really focus on that. Really focus on what's in front of you, right? One thing that's funny is since I took my driving test, one of the things that they ask you is, what is the best way to maintain lane position? And one of the answers is look at the cars around you and keep the distance equal, right? Pay attention to the things that are next to you. But what the real answer is, look far ahead in the future. Look far ahead in the road and stay between those lines. Focus on your own path, right? And follow that. It's not look backwards and see where you were. It's not look to the side and see where other people are. It's no, where are you? Where are you? You can't get lost by thinking about different times, right? Or different people. In that situation, break it down and be like, hey, there's nothing I can do about the past, right? That chunk of time, send it out the window because guess what? It ain't going to help you now. It's not going to help you pull yourself out of the scenario. It will help you know what not to do in the future. And I've learned, don't leave things to the last minute like that. It's a stupid idea, right? The idea is now I move on from that. The past is the past. Now I got to live in the present and see what I can do for the future. That's step number one, I think, to rekindling your hope, is by believing that what's done is done. You have to let go. Like that baggage is going to be heavy. Mm-hmm. So if you can let go of that, you've already taken the first step, in my opinion.
Yeah, and one thing that you talked about that really, it kind of flipped a switch in my head because you don't know this story yet, but this happened yesterday. I was going to tell our parents to ask her about it, but I completely forgot. But I'm going to tell the story to you because you don't know either. So yesterday I'm sitting here home. It's just me and our grandma because you were at, your whole day event thing. Yeah. Parents were out at a wedding. And I'm sitting here by myself and I go to eat in the kitchen. And she sat there at the, kitchen island just kind of chilling, observing nature. And I go sit down with my chimichangas on my plate and I'm ready to munch. And then she asks me a question about how expensive a phone is because her phone had just died, right? And it wasn't really working. So we start talking about that. And then eventually we get onto the topic of engineering and building things and how there's a lot of people out there who do crazy things. And we talk about a lot of our relatives back home because our parents are the only people who left Sri Lanka. The rest of our relatives are all back home. And we sat there talking about it, and it brought my attention to one of our relatives. He has a condition where there is a small hole in his heart. So I believe it leads to the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood mixing a little bit, which is really bad for your body. So as a result of that condition, he's shorter and not as strong as his age should be. So his physical characteristics are that of somebody 5 years younger than him, I believe,
I didn't know that.
according to, the genetic condition. And his whole life, he was told by all of his relatives that he should take things easy and, a lot of things aren't possible for him. And I think about his story a lot because knowing that it's somebody close to me, knowing that it's one of my cousins, somebody who's really, really close to me, and every time I see him, I feel bad about it. But then I realized in watching David Goggins' stories, especially his podcast episodes, did you ever stop for a moment and think that David Goggins has the same condition as him?
I know. I thought about that. I realized that. It's crazy to me.
And so I sat there and explained the whole story to our grandmother in our language. Like, I speak our language, definitely not as fluent as somebody from back home.
Yeah, obviously.
But obviously I can still speak it good enough that they can understand me. So I sat there explaining this whole story of David Goggins and his whole, life and how he became this guy. And then at the end of it, I dropped the truth bomb on her and saying, yeah, this guy who runs hundreds of miles, this guy who's a Navy SEAL, this guy who inspired millions of people to change their lives, he has a hole in his heart, just like our cousin. And when I told her that, she was blown away. And she realized in that moment that he was held back not by the condition, but by his own mind and the people around him.
Absolutely.
That hope of I can be this guy was not there in his life because people told him he couldn't. So the next time you go out there to rain on somebody else's parade or rain on your own parade, don't do it, man. No matter what struggle you're going through, whether it's a disease, a genetic disorder, or just a bad time in your life, don't sit there and give up on hope. Have that positive outlook for the future. Because with that positive outlook, you go out there and you do so much more. You accomplish so much more. And that leads me to my second point about hope. Hope is nothing without action. The simple belief of hope may make you feel better in the short term, but in the long term, nothing changes if nothing changes. So you need to take your perspective, that positive outlook on life, that tomorrow is going to be good. But it's going to be good because I'm going to make it good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to go out there. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to chase my dreams. I'm going to put aside the distractions and focus on me. Now, I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. Truth be told, on this podcast, I am real. I am raw. I say my life. If I'm failing at something, I'm going to say it. If I'm succeeding at something, I'm going to say it. That's the kind of person I want to be. I don't want to hide behind facades, mirrors, masks anymore. My whole life, I sat here pretending to be somebody. I sat here putting on a face for other people. Not being true with myself, not being the guy I want to be. I spent so long doing that I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm going to be real with you guys. This past weekend, super mid. Because for me, I felt so lethargic, out of energy, and down in the dumps. I don't know why.
I was too. I mean, I'll explain why I got out of my slump in a moment, but I'll let you continue your story. But I felt the same way too.
That's kind of crazy that we
crazy.
Both, I don't know, man. That's very, very crazy. But this entire weekend, I did not get much done. And I thought to myself, dude, I really need to focus on school because I walked into one of my classes, right? And I'm really, really locked in for two of my classes, 2 out of my 3 classes. I'm doing good, especially in the first one because I was in I was 2 standard deviations away from the average for my exam. So I scored really, really high on that. And my average is like a 90 something in that class, okay? Feeling pretty good about that. Second class, also pretty good. Third class, terrible. I don't understand why. I just don't get it. And I need to put more effort into studying and actually learning. Also, my professor is French, speaks with an accent. I can't understand half the words he's saying. So it's extremely challenging for me to actually learn in this class. But if I put in more effort, I could do better. And I remember walking into class and looking at all the exam scores because we just got our midterm exams back. I spent so much time studying on the exams for my first 2 classes. I neglected this one. And I walked into class and I saw all the exams and he's flipping through the exams to find mine. And I'm looking at everybody else's score. I'm like, dude, I am one of the lower scoring exams in this classroom. I sat there, looked through my exam and thought to myself, I'm not going to let this happen again. And I came home and I wanted to study this weekend. And then what happened? Your boy did not study. I got completely lost in laziness. I don't understand why, but it just happened. And so today is my bounce back. I sit here, look at the future and say, I'm not going to let it continue any longer. I'm going to go out there and starting tomorrow, I'm going to pick it up where we left off. Everyone has good and bad days. Question is, how do you bounce back?
Absolutely. And you know, what happened, like you could see today when I came down, I was out of it. Like I wasn't talking to anybody. I had no emotion. I was just dead. I felt like garbage. And maybe it was because I saw, do you know who Jason Todd is? Like from Batman?
Yeah.
He's like the Robin.
Yeah.
You know his like story?
Yes.
Yeah. So like I saw a video of that and I was like,
Jason Todd is the one who becomes Red Hood, right?
No, I don't think
I'm pretty
so.
sure.
Red
'Cause-
Hood?
Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe. But and in any case, I was looking at his story, and if, for those of you that don't know, he kind of got like tortured by the Joker, and it was kind of terrifying because like I saw it, and I was really, I don't know, I was just thinking about it, and it was really sad because he lost hope. Yeah, I think it is. It is.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Jason Todd becomes Red Hood. See?
Yeah. But anyway, he, died, or didn't really die, but he got tortured believing that Batman would save him, and Batman never did, which is really...
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what his story was like. That's why he became...
But like, what was the reasoning that Batman never saved him?
I don't know. I actually don't know. But
Dude.
it was really tragic anyway. But, and also I think this is from the games, not from the comics. His comic book story, I think he gets like, he actually dies. Like he doesn't survive. So, in any case, I saw that and I was like, damn, sometimes hope can put you in bad scenarios. But I did question the fact, like, hey, would it have been better for him to not believe in hope, right? Not hoping that Batman would save him, right? Even letting that bit of positivity that he could have had go, would it have been worth it? Probably not. But anyway, that's completely sidetracked from the story. My hope came in today about, we started recording about 45 minutes ago, so like about an hour ago, I was pretty lethargic, and then my parents, I'm in Scouts, okay? I'm gonna be transparent with you guys, right? I've been in Scouts for about like 10 years now, I think.
Yeah.
So I've spent my fair share of time, but I lost my uniform recently, and I couldn't find it, and that sucked for me because it has like a bunch of my badges on it that like
Wait, the green one?
No, my blue one.
Oh, your Venture one?
Yeah, my Venture
Wait, you
one.
can't find it?
Well, so let me finish the story.
MB,
okay?
MB guys.
And it's got like, my awards pinned on it, like my Chief Scout Award, for example, on it. So like, I really didn't want to lose that. That's got all my badges and stuff. And, I'm getting a new uniform and I don't want to get that all replaced, all my badges and stuff. So it's nice to have the old uniform still. But I could not find it. And this was bothering me for a while because like, it just sucked. It just sucked not having this one thing that actually meant something. Because, when you spend time building something, like for that uniform, because I've taken badges from my past uniforms, so you could say for the past like 6 or 7 years probably that I've been between Scouts and Ventures, I have been working on this uniform, getting all these badges and this stuff. So it means something to me, and I don't want to lose it. So I was very sad when I couldn't find it. And then out of nowhere, my parents today were like, yo, we just found your uniform. It was in this bag we were about to donate to Big Brothers. So somehow it got lost up in there. And I don't know why. Well, actually, I do know why. I'll get into that. But that instant moment just sparked my brain and was like, oh my God, I need to, get to work for some reason. And I think it's the idea of symbols of hope, events of hope, right? Why do we think that superheroes have such big impacts on places, right? People don't realize this, but for example, in like The Flash, right? He's not just a superhero, but he inspires the people in the city to do better. Right? He inspires the police force to be more vigilant. He inspires other heroes to step up and become better. It's not just about him. He doesn't just put bad guys away, but he brings out good guys.
Yeah.
Right? So you need to be that kind of a person. Or if you're not that kind of a person yet, look for people who are. There are a million signs. And it's not even just people, it's things, events. Look through the world. There's a lot of good in the world. There's beautiful things happening everywhere. Whether it be looking in your backyard at a very pretty flower, or even going online and looking up some good news that happened today, you could find so much beautiful things in this world. And those will give you hope for the future, right? And even doing good by yourself. When you do something good for yourself, I think you provide yourself with hope for the future. For example, I started playing the piano again, right? I talked about this on the last episode anyway. But there's some times where there was a point where I got, and I was really down because I couldn't figure out a part. Like, I just can't do it. And I'd listen to my friend play, and I'd be like, bro, there's no way I'm ever going to learn that. This is impossible. But I was like, you know what? I might as well just keep hammering away at it. And as I chip away at it, and I get better, I'm like, this seems a lot more possible than it used to be, right? Initially, this was impossible. There's no way I was going to do this. But now, with every single note that I play more, I feel like I'm inching closer, right? That I don't know, maybe it's not going to pop up right away, but with each step, I'm getting better. I'm becoming better, right? So give yourself that hope, that idea that things are possible. Even if you can't see it right now, you can't achieve it right now, it's doable. It's just going to take some time. It's like, remember the ice cube analogy? Where you leave an ice cube in a room and you turn up the degree every minute, right? You're not going to see any changes until it hits that 0 mark. Once it hits there and then it goes to 1 and 2 and 3, now it starts to go. But you don't know when you're one step away. So why not keep going, hoping that the next step is the one step away?
Damn. Yeah, you're 100% right. And projecting that, analogy of being a beacon of hope is something that you can do every day with one very simple action. And that action is smiling. Now, the critical point about this is if you look at that book right there, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that will change your perspective on life and change your perspective on how you interact with others. And one of the most critical points in that book about making people approach you kindly is smiling. The second they look at you and they see a smile on your face, it immediately makes them less on guard. It makes them trust you more. Why is that? Because humans, even when we don't choose to admit it, have an inclination to trust those with a positive attitude, to trust those that we feel a connection of happy emotions around. That connotation of happiness with this random guy that I just met, that's what builds trust. Why did Alex, talking to that homeless guy, how did the homeless guy trust him after throwing death threats at him? Why did he do that? Because Alex turned around with a smile on his face and said, "Hey man, what's going on? Why are you upset?" And he tried to understand him. So when you go out there, day-to-day basis, just smile. I even talked about that story of the crossing guard, right? Just seeing him smile every day and wave at me as I drive past that four-way stop, that changes my day every single day without fail. So think about you going out there and smiling. How many people are going to change how they treat you?
Yeah.
And how are you going to change their lives, how they treat everyone else?
You want to know this quote that I saw earlier that really, it blew up my perspective because of one thing.
Yeah.
Was recently our friends went out of town and we had their dog with us. And I'm a big dog guy. Like, I love dogs. And we can't really have one because of this guy's allergies. So that kind of sucks. But I really love dogs. And I saw this quote and I was like, damn, this is kind of brilliant. But it said, maybe God didn't give animals the ability to speak to show us that love is proven through actions, not words. And I was like, oh my God, that's so brilliant, man. Because man's best friend is a dog, right? A dog is man's best friend. How is it your best friend when you can't even speak to them? Because you can show them that you are. And it actually takes me back to one thing that you said about how we're more open to trust people when they smile, right? You want to know why I think that is?
Why?
It's a quote from Simon Sinek. And he said, "We don't build trust by offering help. We build trust by asking for it. And you will be 100% more willing to ask for help from somebody with a smile than somebody with a frown."
Damn.
Because the person with a smile, you don't think they're going to judge you.
Yeah.
You don't think that they're going to treat you badly. You don't think that they're going to put you down for what you've done. So building that trust with other people is by being a good person, by showing them the kind of person that you really are. I feel like nowadays people have this idea about like being mysterious, nonchalant, if you will.
Yeah.
But who do you really benefit in this scenario, right? Because maybe it's some people find it nice, but majority of people, we're affected by the people around us, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, we are affected by the people around us. So if you could walk around with a smile, and I actually, okay, wait, let me backtrack that a little, because I think most people are affected by those around them. For me personally, because I've reflected on this so much, I don't find myself too concerned with everybody else, especially when it comes to the negative side. But if I see somebody smiling, it makes me smile too, because I'm like, oh man, that's so nice. I love seeing that. I love seeing other people having a good day.
Yeah.
But when I see somebody having a bad day, it doesn't immediately, or somebody with like a kind of expression, a very angry or sad expression, it doesn't make me feel sad at all. I don't really mind it because I'm more than happy, right? So I'm like, I'm not gonna let the negative stuff pull me down, but I am gonna let the positive stuff pull me up. But there's a lot of people who aren't in that scenario. So if you are in that scenario, if you have realized that, it's up to me and I can be happy, then why not put that out for everybody else? For the people who may not have realized it yet, you can put out so much more, right? You can be like, hey, I'm not affected by this, so other people shouldn't be. But that's not how the world works, right? Not everybody's going to be the way that you are.
100%.
And I know this because I fall for this all the time, where I act as if everybody should act the way that I do. And, I know that. I can acknowledge my own wrongs sometimes too. But when you believe that everybody could use that helping hand, it makes that helping hand, so much easier to use. If you're like, hey man, if everybody out there, if I can extend my hand to every single person out there to pull them up, I should do it. That's going to make your life and everybody else's life so much better.
100%. Honestly, could not have put it any better. And I think that's a great note to cap this episode off on.
Exactly.
So, buddy, why don't you take us to where we need to be?
Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the very end of this episode. I know we ran a little bit late, but before you guys go, you know you need to stick around for... Whoa, you know what time it is. It is time for Quote
Of
the
Week.
Year.
Quote of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Good to have you back. It was
It
very
is
interesting doing that with Eric last week.
Did you do it with Eric?
Yeah, I did.
get to watch that.
I did
Okay,
the
I'm
quote of the
gonna
week.
have
The intro was, the outro was very, very like sloppy. I definitely don't like ending it without saying "live a positive life." That's just, it has to be that.
But I'm sorry, that's just my saying, man. I'm sorry. I'll try.
Man,
I'll
whatever.
try. I'm sorry.
Whatever, man. All right, quote of the week. Let's get to it. All of life is the study of attention. Where your attention goes, your life follows. And this is a quote from a Indian philosopher by the name of Jiddu Krishnamurti. Okay? And I really like this quote because it embodies everything that we talk about very, very well. That, or at least the first half of this.
Yeah.
The thought aspect. Not so much the action, but the thought. What you think about is where your life will go. So if you wake up every day saying, my life sucks, I'm in a bad spot, I can't have anything, I'm not good enough, you never will be. But if you wake up every morning thinking, yesterday wasn't good, this weekend wasn't good, but I have the opportunity to make it great, and starting tomorrow, I'm going to do this, and I hope that the future is going to be better. That's how you make your life great.
Thank you guys so much again for sticking around to the very end of this episode. It is very great to be back with you guys for episode 46. Now, episode 50 is coming up, the Big 50.
Big 50.
Big 50. Also, some cool things coming up for spooky season Halloween episodes. Stay tuned for the future. But make sure that you go out there and you be hopeful, that you believe the best in yourself and others, to have a positive outlook on life and give help wherever you can, because you never know how much you may affect other people. So make sure you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.